Mercy is not a film I would necessarily recommend, but it's a film that I think sparks a deeper conversation about the growing fear of AI use. And in order to discuss this film, I want to make my beliefs on AI known. I don't fully support it for many reasons, not just the environmental impact, but also the socioeconomic impact, which is what this film in particular tries to tackle. Granted, maybe not in a way that'll be appealing to a lot of people, but I'm also not entirely against one day, hopefully, coming up with ethical and responsible ways of using this technology, like weather predictions or climate modeling or disaster responses, for example. And my hope is that all processes that are currently not sustainable will hopefully one day find a way to get there. I'm not blind to the scary ass reality that AI is not going anywhere. The billions investors have poured into this technology is astronomical. And of course, they expect to get an equally profitable return on their investments in the near future, when AI will undoubtedly be ingrained in many of our everyday activities. But I don't think this film is AI propaganda like many people are saying. And I think the fact that this is not a particularly good film is exacerbating and clouding people's ability to see past that. Mercy showed us a dystopian future that was becoming reliant on AI because some had started to believe that humans weren't capable of deciphering the facts the way a machine that was programmed and trained to do so could. But what the system failed to take into account were all the human complexities and intricacies and components that AI could never integrate or replicate into its processes, including intuition and empathy, which can't always be explained scientifically or statistically. And especially given Hollywood's very complicated history and feelings towards AI, when I was listening to several interviews with the cast and creative team of this film, for research purposes, of course, because my god was this a boring ass press tour, it's evident that they view AI as inevitable and powerful technology that's already reshaping society. But I find that they remain firm on their beliefs that it lacks the essential human elements required for true creative expression, which leads me to believe that they intended the film as a cautionary tale about its unchecked use, balance, and power. And without giving too much of the film away, even though I'm sure most of you could care less about being spoiled at this point, there are several moments that Chris Pratt's character uses his intuition to determine what his next steps within the investigation should be. And the AI judge, played by the incredible Rebecca Ferguson, can't process why at first, but is eventually surprised by how it does lead to a progression in the case, not just in his favor, but also in uncovering the truth about why all these events took place. But why did I find this relevant? Because there's so many people nowadays using AI as their own personal therapist when it could never understand the intricacies and complexities of being a human like another human could. And I get it, therapy can be expensive, but this is why journals and hot girl walks exist. So not only is it limiting and hindering human interaction, and then we're complaining about a loneliness epidemic, even though some of these men need to be lonelier, but some people are using AI for even the simplest of tasks, and it's driving me crazy, justifying it as efficiency, but in the same process, rendering their brains absolutely useless. Like, I'm sure if you would have given yourself a little bit of time, you would have eventually gotten there. And it's not just about the lazy ass ways people are using AI, but how they're letting it do all the work for them instead of giving their brains the workout. And that's my fear, that we'll become too reliant on AI to do it for us, especially the younger generation who are already using it in a plethora of unethical ways. And the fear that it could eventually lead to a mental decline in our capacity to figure shit out is not scaring people enough. But if I'm being honest, I can't even blame some people, especially the children, for using AI. But I highly recommend everyone, especially parents, to educate themselves further on it. Simon Clark has an amazing video on YouTube titled "Should I Feel Guilty for Using AI?" He summarizes in a truly brilliant way not just the environmental impact our use has, while also comparing it to livestock farming and traditional energy use, which actually shows that AI is not the sole or even biggest contributor. But he also details the socioeconomic impact it's having in our society, and it doesn't entirely shift the blame away from us, but he does argue that feeling guilty for using it might be too simplistic, because almost all digital activities consume energy, and the hierarchy is equally as fascinating as it is terrifying. But he argues that it is so vital to maintain thoughtful awareness of how it's being used, and especially if we choose to use it. And while I don't think the film did a great job of hammering that critical point home, I don't believe it was trying to tell us that AI could be good for us. Despite the ending and it all working out with the AI's help, it was the fact that while he did use the AI resources at his disposal, frankly, honestly by force, he didn't just rely on it solely, and he made it realize that human brains have have so much more to offer if given the opportunity.